What's going on, you guys? My name is Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB. If you know me, you know I freaking love getting that front wheel in the air. Manuals are probably one of my favorite moves. And unlike the wheelie I feel like is a little bit more showboaty. The manual is something that I use all the time on my rides out on the trails. And it's not just for showing off in front of your friends. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to manual. If you haven't checked out my how to wheelie video, I definitely would recommend going back and checking that one out too. Just because there are a lot of things in it that are going to help you with the manual as well. But either way, in this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to manual. It's going to be super short, simple, so let's get after it. So step one, the first thing I want you guys to do is to get out on the trail, and I want you guys to compress your fork. So shift your body weight forward a little bit and just kind of give it a couple of compressions if you can in this stage. Also try to lift up on that handlebar as well after you compress, just to try and lift that front wheel off the ground just a tad. So super simple. We're just trying to get that front wheel off of the ground. Don't worry about shifting any body weight back too far or getting that front wheel super far in the air. We're just trying to get that front wheel a little bit off the ground so we can get familiar with that concept. All right, so step number two, this is going to be timing. So now that we're a little bit more used to getting that front wheel off the air, the next thing I want you guys to do here is, as you compress that fork and you start to pull back, what I want you guys to do with your hips is I want you to shift your body weight back. So try to envision those hips going almost on top of that rear axle of that rear wheel. So as you compress the fork and you start to pick up, you're shifting your body weight back as well. What this is doing is basically with the momentum of compressing your fork and pulling up, by shifting your body weight back at the same time, you're getting that front wheel in the air a little bit further. So this is going to be very crucial to getting that front wheel nice and high. And this is going to lead us to step number three. So basically, after you're done getting that front wheel in the air, you got a little bit more familiar with that, and now you're starting to get that timing correct, so that as you compress the fork and you start to pull up, you're shifting your body weight back behind that rear axle as well. Now what I want you guys to do is I want you to start get familiar with that rear brake. So if you've been watching my wheelie videos, you'll know that that rear brake is very crucial to bringing you back down in a wheelie, and the same applies for a manual as well. So say you really get into it and you force that rear wheel into the air and you start to go a little bit too far back. So you're starting to get to that point of that sweet spot where if you go a little bit further, you'll basically loop out backwards. That's where I want you guys to basically give that rear brake just a tap, and it's going to bring you straight back down. So like I said, the rear brake is very important. So definitely get familiar with that rear brake and how it's going to bring you back down after you get to that sweet balance spot. All right, so now that we've gotten a little bit more familiar with getting that front wheel in the air and shifting our body weight back at the same time, and we also know that if we go too far in the air, we can just touch our rear brake, and that's going to bring us back down. It's going to bring us to our fourth step, and that's going to be shifting our body weight and modulating that rear brake. Now, like I said, if you watched my wheelie video, you also heard me explain to you how you're actually wheeling, and which is it's modulating the rear brake. And as you touch that rear brake, that bike is going to start to go back down, and you're shifting your body weight back on the wheelie to basically counter going back down. The same thing is going to apply for the manual. The only difference is you're not sitting on the seat. So what I want you guys to do now is I want you guys to go find a section of trail and get a little bit of speed. I don't want you guys flying out of control, but at the same time, learning to manual is always easier when you're rolling a little bit, because you're basically using that momentum from the bike to stay in the air just a little bit longer on that rear wheel. And so basically, as your bike starts to pick up speed, what I want you guys to do is get into that timing, basically compress that fork, shift your body weight back, and as you go up to that sweet spot, I want you guys to see how close you can get to that sweet spot. And if you start to go too far back, I want you guys to touch that rear brake, but make a mental note. As you're touching that rear brake, I also want you guys to shift your hips back a little bit further as well. And what you should notice is rather than just going straight back down, your front wheel is actually going to go back up just a little bit. And then it's going to become this balancing game. And that's going to lead us to step number 5. And that's going to be practice, because this is the most crucial aspect of the manual. Anytime you get up to that sweet spot, you're going to be touching that rear brake or modulating it, and you're going to feel like the bike's going back down. But it's up to you to shift that body weight back. So those hips, I want you guys to get a little bit further back on top of that rear axle and almost straighten out those hamstrings just a tad. And that's what's shifting that body weight back and basically bringing that front wheel up in the air a little bit more. And then as you feel like you're going too far, modulate that rear brake just a tad. You're going to feel like you're going to be going back down. And like I said, it's a balancing game here where you're basically shifting that body weight back and also touching that brake to basically counter whatever that brake is doing. So it's definitely, it is a little bit frustrating in the beginning because it can take some time to learn. However, it's not as bad as the wheelie. I feel like the manual is something that you can pick up a little bit quicker, just because, especially as you start to go downhill and pick up a little bit more speed and you try to pop those manuals, you're going to be covering a little bit more distance with each try. And I feel like it's a little bit easier to get more distance in the manual than it is on the wheelie, especially when you're first starting out. And the coolest thing too is, yeah, wheeling for days and manualing for days is super cool. However, you don't have to manual for days to have it benefit you on the trail. For certain features, like I said, the rock up and over, or say like a very slow huck where you've come into it a little bit too slow and now you have to basically manual off it. Those aren't long manuals. It's just the act of the manual that's basically helping you out in those situations. So like I said, you don't have to be a pro person manualing, but just because you guys have started to practice the manual and you started to put that in your bag of tricks, it's going to help you guys out tremendously when you're out on the trail. So be sure to go out on trails, take some videos of yourself manualing, tag me on Instagram, ask me any questions I didn't answer in this video, because I am always happy to help. Thank you guys so much for watching, and more importantly, thank you for Handup Gloves for sponsoring this skill series. They've been super awesome to work with and just want to get more riders dialed in on bikes. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more skills video, definitely hit that like button, and until next time, you guys, ride awesome. Ew!